Now, BMW has just released the facelift or the updated 2025 BMW 3 Series, and I think it looks good. It's one of these BMWs on the current lineup that still looks like a proper BMW in the front end. However, there are a couple of small changes that I want to make to this design, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to redesign the front end of the new 2025 3 Series and show you small changes to bring back what the 3 Series has looked like throughout history. But before we do that, let's have a look at the actual generations here of the 3 Series itself. I'm going to want to show you what I'm talking about when we have this red line throughout the history. Now, I am, of course, skipping some 3 Series here, otherwise this would be a 4-hour-long video, and I don't want to do that, so we're starting with I do believe this is from the 70s, this 3 Series, and just look at how clean, unmistakably BMW this is. We have two lines in the top part right here, cutting through here, and within these lines we have the dual headlights and also the kidney grills here in the front end, looking very clean. Clear separation between the top half graphics and the lower half graphics. Down low we do have the bumper, of course, and this being a 70s car means that we don't necessarily need to bring it closer than this to the ground, because it didn't go that fast that it didn't really create a lot of lift in the front end, and that is the reason why modern car sits a lot lower to the ground to reduce that lift that we have. A beautiful BMW, this thing. This is probably a sort of maybe a 325 coupe or something like this. You can see that we do have the Hofmeister kink intact here. Beautiful greenhouse as well. Everything is just proper BMW with this front end. I do like that it has this lean in the graphics in the front as well. Now, moving down to the 90s, we come into this 3 Series here, the E36. You can clearly see the connection to the 70s design here is basically a modernization of the 70s design, because look at this. We still have two lines up here, clean, and two lines at the bottom where the bumper sits right in the middle, separating again the top half graphics from the lower half graphics. Still have this being the 4-door, we still have the Hofmeister kink intact. You can see that this now sits a lot lower to the ground because, as I said, this came in the M3 version as well as the first M3, the E30. This also was a very quick car, 286 horsepower, I do believe the M3 had of the E36, so it was a very fast car, meaning that we need to bring this gap that we have in the 70s car, we need to bring that closer to the ground. You can see that we have this side skirt here as well, a rocker panel in the lower section, also from the side bringing back the car closer to the ground. But we still have the key features here. Two round headlights in the front end, orange indicator, which I think looks great on a 90s BMW. Some like to have them be clear, but I prefer to have them be amber like this. We also have, of course, the kidneys in the middle here, as you can see. Greta is interested in this lineup of BMWs as well, as you can see. Very invested in these design changes throughout the years. Coming into the E46 down here, and this is my favorite personal. If I were to pick one 3 Series, I do believe it's E46 that is my favorite. I just think it's a masterpiece of a design, both the sedan and the coupe as well. Look at this beautiful line cutting through the door handles from the corner of the taillight here into, not really the corner, you can call this a corner of the headlight right here as well. But you can see the connection here. You can see that how this E36 now got a lot smoother, but it's still essentially the exact same layout of the graphics. Even the fog lights down here now sit in this similar position, but they are a lot slimmer down here. We also have this intake at the lower section, which we also had in between the fog lights of the E36. And again, two lines up top right here. Nice lines connecting like this with the grille to the headlights. Still amber indicators, which I also like for the E46. It just looks a little bit more classic and elegant in my opinion. I love these lines that we have on the hood here, cutting up into the windshield, and the softness of this design. Look at these dips that we have for the key graphics in the headlights, dipping down like this, looking beautiful. Everything just got a little bit more smooth, and it's essentially a modernization of the E36, looking beautiful. And this is where it gets a little tricky for me when it comes to this design, because I think there's a lot going on here. Look at this connection from the grille, the chrome of the grille stretching in and connecting clearly to the headlights, which is a pretty cool design feature. I don't mind that at all. all, but there's no, this connection, this separation with the bumper is starting to get a little blurry here because we don't have two clean lines separating these two graphics with a bumper in the middle. It's still there, sort of, and then we have the lower intake with the fog lights being integrated in the lower section, the intake down here. Looking beautiful. It's still a beautiful looking BMW. I do love this line that we have cutting sharply into the bodywork, and also this line at the bottom down here. But in my opinion, the E46 looks just so much better than the next generation that came after it. We still have the Hofmeister kink here intact, as you can see. Overall, a pretty decent looking BMW, and the M3 of this generation also looks very clean. Maybe a little over stylized in the front end, but that's just my opinion. Now coming into today's, the brand new 2025 3 Series down here, you can see that this definition between the top half of the graphics and the lower half of the graphics is completely gone. We don't really have a separation with a bumper here anymore because this lower intake is now bigger than the main grille that we have up top, and the grille also sits higher than the headlight. So I want to bring this down a little bit to maybe be more in line with the top part of the headlight here in the redesign. These are very organic looking headlights, but the internal pieces to me look pretty static when I look at these designs that we have inside of the headlights themselves, the units. And last but not least, we have this angle, which is so not BMW in my opinion. I mean, it is these days because every single BMW have these chiseled sharp triangles going all across the front end, which I think, I mean, it's a new design language for BMW, but BMW's problem is, if you look at the entire lineup, they don't have a red line of design DNA cutting through the entire lineup like we used to have up until 2015 or so. So I want to bring back some of that more traditional classic BMW look for this design. So with that said, let's jump into the redesign here and let's have a look at how this is going to turn out. And while we do that, let's also check out some of the spec and tech for the 2025 BMW 3 Series. It gets updated hybrid system, which adds more torque. The 2025 M340i adds 4 horsepower and 29 pound-feet of torque thanks to a revised 48-volt hybrid system, while the 4-cylinder remains the same, which is the 330. Updates are pretty slim for the 2025 3 Series, which is unsurprising since the big facelift actually happened just last year, so you don't necessarily need to update this substantially just yet. The biggest changes for the updated 3 Series involve the M340i's turbocharged 3-liter inline-6, upgraded for sharper power delivery and greater efficiency as well. Total output comes out to about 386 horsepower for the M340i, which is not bad at all, and 398 pound-feet of torque. However, the less powerful 330i still has the turbocharged 2-cylinder, 4-cylinder with 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, which I have reviewed in person. And you might think the 255 horsepower seems quite low these days, but remember, these are German horsepower. These horsepower are different from, for example, American 255 horsepower. I don't know, there's just something with German horsepower that makes them feel more powerful than what the number actually states. And I thought the 330 with the 255 horsepower was a sweet spot when it comes to power and driving dynamics. It was a fantastic car to drive. You can go and check out that review of mine right here on the channel. I'm going to link it down below if you want to check that out. You have a stiffer chassis mounts as well, connecting the dampers to the body, reportedly help to refine the ride quality, while the steering effort in comfort mode is now a lot lighter than what it used to be. And I don't know if that's a good thing, because I do want to have that BMW feel in the steering wheel, that's sort of heavy, not heavy, but you want to have some resistance in the steering wheel. If it's too light, it feels like a simulation. It's not good at all for the driving dynamics. On the inside, the new 3 Series joins newer BMWs such as the electric i5 in using the brand's iDrive 8.5 system, which I've said so many times before, I am not a fan of at all. I do prefer the iDrive 7 100% over the 8.5. Because it works, it's better design, it's more user-friendly, and it definitely looks 10 times better than the 8.5 interface that we have here. But that screens is pretty much where BMW is going with, just screens everywhere on the interior, which is sort of a shame. The redesigned home screen continuously displays the navigation system. You do have a bar at the lower section now with the 8.5 system that always displays the climate control settings, so you don't need to go and fiddle around inside of the software just to change the temperature, which just does not make sense to me, but they've switched it up so it's always visible now. Along with 2 new steering wheel options, a pair of new paint colors, one red and one blue, and a new set of 19-inch M alloy wheels for the 330i. So those are the changes essentially for the 2025 3 Series. So looking at the redesign here, you can see that I wanted to bring back some of that separation between the top half and the lower half graphics, like we talked about throughout the generations of BMW. I have some problems still with this corner. I'm not happy, 100% happy with how this corner right here cuts in and it creates this very thin piece. I've tried to play around with it and tried to come up with a solution, and the solution I had was to just bring in sort of a styling line right here that connects with the overall styling that we have. For example, here in the side view we have a similar line that is just there for styling purposes, and I also added a small, I had this angle being in line with this, but I wanted to have a little bit of an up angle right here to create more of an dynamic end point for the front half. And then last but not least, bring down the kidneys to be more in line. They still sit higher than the headlights, as you can see, but I think having them squished down a little bit and a bit narrower and more, it makes them feel wider, and I think that just adds to this BMW-ness that I want to see. Last but not least, throw on some BMW M3 CSL looking wheels onto this, and that would be my redesign for the 2025 BMW 3 Series.